Footy and Frothies, Daggy and Barney with you on a beautiful Tuesday evening at the Grey Gums Hotel in Penrith. Barney, what's happening, mate?
Yeah, not a great deal, mate. Just back at work and back into the grind as per usual. But we had another fantastic weekend of footy. It just doesn't seem to stop at the moment. There's some pretty much 5 or 6 brilliant games of footy every weekend, which is great for for us footy tragics.
I loved it. And I did ask for some car crash games last week. I think we might have got 4 of them, just about, but which we'll get into. But it's definitely been. There hasn't been any. There's been some games disappointing, but I don't think it's too many that have bored me, which is the main thing.
Yeah, how's the school holidays treating you, bud?
It's certainly treating me.
Keeping you on your toes?
Kids have been good. Played plenty of time at the park and kicking the footy, and went and saw the Mario movie, so thumbs up for that.
As did I. Yeah, it was good.
Enjoyed that. Where else have we been? We've been out and about every day, so that's been good.
Nice.
Got a couple of days with their mum Thursday and Friday, so get a bit of a break before we get into it again next week. Back to school at least, so so no, it's been good. Yeah, no complaints at all. They let me watch the footy, so
it's always a good
works for me. What about yourself? What's been happening?
Yeah, not much. The kitchen, we've finally finished off the kitchen now, which is good. So we had to move all the stuff back in over the weekend and set up the kitchen and clean up the house because we're obviously short one room in the house. But just a weekend of pretty much just sorting the house out and hanging out with the little one. As I said, we went and saw the Mario movie, which I thought was really well done actually.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much sums up my weekend, apart from watching every minute of footy that was played, as I do most weekends.
Yeah, no, well, so did I. Saw all of it, and for once remember all of it too, so that was nice as well when doing the form. So
yeah, that's right. You're on a health kick, mate.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes, see how that pans out for the next couple of months anyway.
Well done.
Just starting out, so we'll see where that ends up. But we've got plenty to talk about. We'll save some of the general chit-chat to a bit later. Injury news. Tamalolo's just had surgery on his knees out for 6 weeks. Doesn't help the Cowboys' cause at the moment.
Yeah, no, he's probably been a bit down on form over the last 2 games. So obviously that
plays into
issue's just been building for the last couple of weeks. But
Carraz, they're saying 3 to 4 matches MCL. Havrilo's been named this week. He was the other injury out of last week.
That's a surprise for the MCL. They're generally 6 to 8.
Yeah,
but
4 to 6. Yeah. So we'll see how we.
He's a young fella, so
ACL,
obviously they do. They generally bounce back a bit quicker than the older blokes.
Yes, you'd know about that one.
Absolutely.
The Kotrick and Martin, speaking of, both aggravated their hamstrings, which they come back from. So we'll see.
Okay.
What happens there? I think Martin's out this week. And the injury news is that apparently Adam Dewey looks like it's a 16th-month recovery on that ACL, so surgery and starting from scratch. So that's essentially next season as well.
Yeah,
at this
halfway
stage.
through the next year.
So it's actually quite an interesting crossroads for him because he only signed a 1-year extension. I think, to be honest, it would take a lot of good faith from the Tigers for him to have a job after that, which sounds horrible, but we'll see where they end up in.
Definitely.
Bars up again, Mick's happy.
Definitely a business these days. So yeah, it's interesting conversations to be had between the club and Adam Dewey.
Probably will be a reflection of what else they achieve in the market as opposed to him, but that's our thoughts with him, and hopefully he does get back and produce his best footy again. Judiciary news. Kamakamika 2 matches out of his shot. Vega 2 matches. Kenny Bromwich had 1 match for that brain explosion there.
Yeah.
And Butcher a match out of the
old hip drop.
Hip drop it was. That's right, early on in the game. No surprises from any of that, I suppose. No.
Well, pretty much any hip drop this year is gonna get a match at least, maybe more. It was pretty much the epitome of a hip drop. Realistically, if you look at it, it wasn't intentional by any means, but the legs and the entire body did go in behind Nikara's legs and took the knees out and then landed on the back of his legs. So I don't think you can have too much of an argument about that.
I think if you're drawing a diagram of a hip drop, it was pretty close to the position you end up in, unfortunately, and I don't think there's any malice in this case.
And there was some silly stuff, wasn't there? And those late shots with...
was it 10 sin bins?
In that game as well, but the Manly Melbourne game got pretty fired up there at one point.
I was surprised they didn't ship in some of the cows from the Easter show, actually, because there was some world-class milking going on at some point. But there
was a couple of good shots, though.
They were good
the one
shots,
on Cherry Evans, he copped a good
DC
shot.
Copped 2, and Munster laid around and held his face and rolled around a bit as well. So
They were
was
well
tit
up.
for tat in that
They're
one.
very much up for it in that game. Both teams just wanted to kill each other.
A most enjoyable game of physical footy.
Yeah.
Any other chat around? Any news? Anything else you want to touch on before we get into it?
No, not really. There's a few interesting omissions from teams this week in the team list, which I'm sure we'll go through
for the preview
in time. But no, there wasn't really any major sort of takeouts of the weekend, except for a couple of teams that I'm really enjoying watching that were well above expectations this year, and they just keep kicking on, which is
fantastic to see. We've given both of them a rap last week, and I think they've lived up to that this week, as we'll get to. The two, I guess, padding talking points from the wider media is the Golden Point stuff again, just because of the Newcastle game. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, well, we covered this a couple of years ago, I'm pretty sure. My thoughts have always been regular season, just let it be a draw. I don't understand why not. Obviously, it's all about the entertainment and getting a few extra minutes and actually having a winner at the end of the game. And, yeah, it is exciting at times, especially if someone makes a break down the side. It doesn't look like they can get anywhere near position and manages to go 80 metres to get down the other end and win a game. But yeah, my preference would probably be just to let it go during the year and then let the draws happen. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to argue against Golden Point either. So
no, I think and a lot of time it happens where I would call 1 point each fair. So if you're not going to do that, it is what it is, I suppose. And I guess the other, we're bordering on Origin time, so that usual chat's up and about. And I guess from your point of view, you'd probably think that Nico deserves a 6th spot.
Yeah, absolutely. But as they've all come out and said, the combination's a big thing. I'd be surprised if he does get the starting spot. I'd more than likely expect him to probably go into that 14 spot. Now there's another talking point, which we'll get to in a minute. But I dare say he'll now go into that 14 position. You can play him anywhere in the back line, and I think at a pinch you could probably go in and play some dummy half as well. So
I'm sure he would. He'd be the traditional fullback on the bench that plays dummy half most of the time and can cover everywhere in the field. So I think you're right. I think Luai deserves a spot off what he's done this year? No. Do I think he's going to get it? Yes. Interesting thought, though, because it's all about combination. If touchwood Nathan Cleary does his ACL tomorrow, would they still pick Jerome Luai?
No, I wouldn't think so.
All of a sudden, it's all out the window. Yeah. All of a sudden, does Reynolds and Walker become a combination?
Probably.
And I was only thinking that today because it's all combination. Combination seems to suggest Appy's going to get his spot from what Freddie said. So anyway, we'll find out.
Damien Cook's been in terrific form at the moment, realistically. So I'd probably be going with Cook off form. But yeah, again, that combination chat, as you said, they've been playing together for a few years. So if you get that block of 4 together, it probably does add a fair bit.
And I guess we've got to touch on Jack Whiten's retired from representative footy. I'm only reading tea leaves, but I'm just thinking that perhaps it's another indication he might be heading up north and moving away from it all and just setting his family up on the Gold Coast. And
the first thing I thought of, obviously...
Redcliffe, I should say.
I dare say the conversation has already been had between himself, informal conversation, obviously, and the Redcliffe Club, and they've basically said, if for us to trump the deal that's on the table at the moment, we can't have you playing representative football during the middle of the year and missing 6 weeks at Origin time. So I dare say they probably turned around and said something like in the vicinity of it's $8.50 if you play an Origin, or you might be looking at 1.2 otherwise. So
if we can get 26 games out of you, which fair enough. And he came out and said that he's happy to go out in the World Cup winning note. So more power to him. He was fantastic in the World Cup. He was outstanding. I think he would make a strong case for him being first picked in centre.
There's rarely a time that I can remember of him playing representative football and not being one of the better players on the field, to be honest.
He would have been I'm sure, I don't know if they pick him on a wing, but I'm sure they would have picked him with Addo Carr out this year. The other talking point, I suppose, the world's best marketing machine, Joseph Swiley's crew, seem to be pushing that somehow rugby's trying to get him picked for Origin now, but...
that'd be a good thing to build experience for him.
But I just feel like this is just the biggest hype machine I've seen. I don't think his performances warrant getting picked in Origin, but am I wrong?
Yeah, I'd have Campbell Graham in front of him at the moment.
By a long space.
By a fair way. Latrell, Tommy as well. So, I can't really see him. He's still finding his way in the centres. If he was to get picked, maybe a wing, they might put him on the wing.
I assume that's where you're going to pick him. But I'd have Campbell. If they're worried about combinations, doesn't Campbell Graham and Latrell
you would think
make
so.
all the sense in the world there?
Yep. And
when you throw Murray and Cook in as well.
A couple of years down the track, he's not going to be here. So, obviously, if he's in form and kicking the door down and, deserve to be picked ahead of other people, pick him. But as you said, I don't think he's in that position at the moment. So
no. I guess we'll see where Freddie ends up. It usually is not where we would end up. So,
it's not.
So we'll keep an eye on that one. Anything else? Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
All right, we kicked off 36-14. The Bunnies beat the Dolphins Thursday night. And, physicality was the story of the weekend, really. This was
a lot
started
of games
this way, whereby I guess Dolphins outbashed them for the first half.
Yeah, absolutely. We're well on top in the middle of the field for at least the first half an hour. And resulted in a couple of early tries. We had 2 tries for the Dolphins, 6 for South Sydney, 2 out of 2 conversions, played 5 out of 6. Both teams had 1 out of 1 penalty attempts. 30 out of 35 sets, played 35 out of 42. 112 plus post-contact metres for Souths, 3 line breaks to 7. 27 tackle busts for the Dolphins, 37 for South Sydney. 9 offloads from both teams, 2 forced dropouts for Souths. No 40-20s, 359 tackles, played 330. A ruck infringement, played 2 against Souths, 1 inside the 10 against South Sydney. 8 penalties conceded to 2, 7 errors to 9, and there was a sin bin for the Dolphins. Jesse Bromwich
My first notes read, silly Kenny. That's it. Anyway, keep going.
Jesse with 41 tackles, Cook with 45, Hamiso with 191 running metres, and Jai Arrow in a very good return with 181 running metres.
It was fantastic, Jai. It
was
absolutely outstanding.
Latrell Mitchell, 121 Supercoach points, Walker with 106, and Ewan Aiken with 91. Yeah, another wholehearted performance for the Dolphins for at least 40, probably close to 60 minutes really. A few signs for me that they may just be reaching that little bit of burnout phase, and they may need a bit of a rest, to be honest, because they did sort of fall away, especially in the physicality in the last 20 minutes, half an hour of this game. A couple of them might need a rest or a week off. I'm sure there's a bye somewhere not far away. So they've just got so much fight and determination in them. Like they very rarely back down against any pack in the competition. They always put up in the middle of the field. And some of their outside backs are playing career best footy.
That was the point I was going to say, is that yes, we've raved about how well they've done building their pack, but their outside backs are all... Ewan Aiken was outstanding here.
He was brilliant in this game, yeah.
But Azarko's probably having a
career best form,
best
absolutely.
year. Hammer's having a career best year.
Yep.
And Branko and Co are just getting back into it.
And Jeremy Marshall-King's at the top of his powers at the moment as well. Who's is big in for this team. He's been fantastic this year when he's been on the field. They were so good in the first half. They were well in front. Souths weren't at their best, but they were playing decent, and the Dolphins were fantastic. Second half started and Souths really upped the tempo from the moment the ball was kicked off in the second half. They really sped up the middle of the play the ball, and that's in the edge of the ruck, and that's where they wear most teams down. That's where they sort of they do their best work, and on the back of that, the likes of Latrell and Cody can jump in and start causing havoc out wide, which is pretty much what they did.
There's no better player in the comp at exploiting space than Cody Walker. When he's just that great. He's great at just picking when to go wide and when not to, and he'll let him come in, and then he'll throw that ball. Particularly when you got 12, when you're 13 on 12, that was just a slaughter by the end of it.
All the defences are really worried about his footwork, and he's really good at stepping back inside and making you look like an idiot if you overread on the outside. So it sort of does really compress the defence when he's running in towards the line, which causes problems. They got a lot more involved, Latrell and Walker, in attacking ball, and they just blew them away by the back end of this game. Latrell was fantastic in red ball area, in the attacking zone. He's back to close to his physical best, busting people open, pushing them away, and didn't look like he got tired in this game. No. He did save a bit in that first half. I don't think he was really pushing himself to the max in that first half, but normally by the end of the game you see him with hands on knees and sort of blowing out the back, and I don't think I really noticed that in this one. Which was
that ball to the first try where he just held the ball and just stood in the line, held the ball that slight minute, was just great touch.
Yeah, really slow play and
Yeah.
really soft hands for the ball. For I think it was Graham, was it, that went over?
Campbell Graham. I think it was Graham's first try.
And isn't he putting some points on the board recently? He's been fantastic as well. He looks so hard to tackle when he gets put into a good one-on-one position.
I think because they've moved him over, he's getting better ball. He never got. We've said it for 18 months. When's he going to get the ball he deserves? And he's getting it now.
Well, they're coming to the right a lot more, which is
but he's able to stand in tackles and offload. He's able to barge over, and he's got good enough footwork where he can beat. He beats a lot of guys one-on-one, like back to the inside of his own centre. He'll come back in under, and cut through there. So I think in my opinion, he deserves a crack at that wing spot in Origin. But what do you make of that second try of his?
Jog my memory.
The alleged where he pushed the bloke out of the way.
Oh yeah, that was a bit of a joke, realistically. He was 5 metres away from the ball. They said he had eyes on the ball.
I thought he had eyes on the ball. I'm more forgiving, and maybe I'm biased. But what we've seen for 2 years now is it's a penalty.
But once the contact was made, he didn't just try to brush past him. He pushed his forearm into the middle of the back and sent the bloke flying. So if he'd sort of hit him and then swerved around him, bit of a difference. But the fact that he went over the top of him, I thought probably should have been taken off him.
This year's a tricky one because we've said for 2 years that they're looking for reasons to take points off people. It looks like this year they're looking for reasons to award points. So I'm not going to whinge about it too much.
Yep.
As much as others. I know it's happened a few times. And they're still lacking consistency, more so when players end up in the line and some don't count and some do. But yeah.
Yeah, it was more the reaction, I thought, once he made contact that would have had me take it off him. But they let it go, and it by no means changed the game. The brilliant efforts in the first half were built off, the Titans in. Like Nichols was brilliant again. Tom Gilbert, he's just absolutely rubber stamped himself as one of the better forwards in the game at the moment. He's brilliant. Doesn't even rest for it. You never see him bludgeon out in the centres or anything. He's just up for it every time that the ball's anywhere near him. He wants a bit of it.
I thought this game was A-grade Jesse Bromwich too.
Yeah, I was just about to mention Jesse Bromwich. Yeah. I thought he's fantastic through the middle of the field, and they've missed him with the I think he's missed a game here and there during the year, and his presence was felt in this one. And I thought Stone was really good as well. Middle of the field. For the first 20 minutes.
He was chopping blokes in half.
Yeah, his defence was really strong, and he was going pretty well with the ball in hand too, considering how he's one of the smaller front rowers you're ever going to see in your life. So I thought he was fantastic, especially in that first half. The halves were pretty strong, I thought. Katoa seems to be building week on week, and Nikorima was actually, his footwork was causing quite a few problems for him out. His speed was causing a lot of problems for him out wide, and led to some points out there. Jeremy Marshall-King was just brilliant. And him and Aiken were by far the best for the Dolphins. Burgess, Host, and Moali were very good in setting the foundation, and that was just improved upon by Cook and Arrow and Murray. The three that I mentioned really did the dirty work and set up the foundation, and then Murray and Arrow just jumped on the back of that.
Well, it's funny how often it happens with Penrith too. It happens with a couple other good teams. When they're in trouble, they just get back to their lock or their lock with footwork, or the couple through the middle of the field.
Big boys
and
just running as hard as they
inside
can.
Out, and it's amazing. It's almost like it's not that difficult to overcome.
Yeah, Arrow, Murray, and Cook's defence in the middle of the field was a big part of why they repelled the Dolphins as well as they did as well, because they had quite a few decent opportunities there, and they just couldn't seem to bust open that middle. Where was I? I've lost me spot on me.
That's right.
Lost me spot.
What else do I have to add here? I think you've covered off pretty well.
Walker and Trell, but they speak for themselves. You saw what they did.
Yeah, well, we've now seen Latrell put 2 in a row as well. We've seen Cody put together a month. I think they've just found their gears now, Souths, and they were out-muscled, but the back class and space prevailed, I guess, when Bromwich... It was a turning point because they were still in the game, the Dolphins, when he got binned. Yeah. I think it was only... maybe they were 6 ahead. But the game was in the balance, and then 10 minutes later, it was a 20-point game.
He come charging out of the line, didn't he?
Yeah, it's... Well, when we talk careless, that was the definition of careless compared to last week to me. I just think good signs for South and to weather the storm as well. They're going to need it to get deep into this.
Yeah, there's going to be good teams that are going to challenge them for.
That's where they've been shown up.
They'll
have to match Penrith this week, but I think you're probably happy. Ilias had a couple of good touches, some good runs as well, in and around that sort of half-time time, which is, I guess, where they want him particularly. What else do we take out of it? I think that's about it. I think, as you said, I think Redcliffe. I thought it last week, but I think you're right in that the red line's sort of coming for Redcliffe,
especially after another really physical performance in this one.
And that's the style they've chosen to play. So I guess they report they sow there. How are we divvying this up? I had 3 points for Jai Arrow, to be honest, but
really?
I'm happy to listen to what you've got to add. But obviously Walker Latrell, but they're a bit flattered.
Yeah, I had Latrell for the 3 points. I thought he was dynamic in good ball and caused them. He was pretty much the catalyst for most of the points, I think, for the South side. And I was tossing up between Walker with the 1 and Jerome and Marshall King, and I had Arrow for the 2.
Okay, we'll go Latrell 3, Arrow 2.
You could chuck Aiken in there too, really.
Aiken
was brilliant, actually.
Bromwich and Aiken were... give it to Aiken, actually, because that's been his best game in those colours.
Yeah. And he was a big part of the reason that they got...
chasing. And they could have been ahead 18-0. He throws...
He busted them open 2 or 3 times.
If he went to his winger, I think the second one, they're up...
Looking in, looking out, looking in, looking out.
They're up 18 or 18-0 or 18-6. It's a different game. But he was fantastic standing up. His opposition there. See, and Cody Walker very unlucky to miss out on a point. Yeah. Jesse Bromwich, Jerry Marshall King, same.
Yeah, some good individuals in this game.
We got to the car crash Friday night. This was some physical footy, some disappointing footy from at least the Roosters. We'll get your thoughts on the Sharks in a minute because the first game was 22-12 to them, and that's a scoreline, in my opinion, that flattered the Roosters, quite frankly. So what did you think?
Yeah, well, we had 4 tries to 2, 2 out of 4 conversions, played 2 out of 2 for the Roosters, 1 out of 1 penalty attempts for Cronulla, 39 out of 51 sets, which is something I'm not that overly happy with from the Sharks, and 30 out of 34 for the Roosters, 401 plus running metres for the Cronulla, 8 line breaks to 3, 46 tackle busts to 30, 7 offloads to 2. No forced dropouts, no 40-20s, 353 tackles played, 345, 1 ruck infringement to 2, 0 inside the 10s. 4 penalties conceded by Cronulla, 14 conceded by the Roosters, 13 errors by the Sharks, 9 by the Roosters, and 3 sin bins for the Roosters, 2 of them coming in, the last 6 minutes, I think it was, of the game. Brayley made 45 tackles, Butcher made 45. I didn't put the running meters down for some reason. Brayley with 100 Supercoach points, Nicker with 84, and then you had 1 more Shark before you got to Egan Butcher on 79.
I'll pull up running metres. Nico, 190 running metres. Talakai, 212. And for the Chooks, we had...
I remember looking at it, I just don't know why I didn't write it
183 for Paulo, 165 Tupou, 170 for Wira Hargraves, who...
it's quite good, especially in the start of the game.
Yeah, we came out firing. As I said, I think this could have been 40 if it wasn't for the Butcher brothers, pretty much, and Lindsay and
their defence was very good in the middle
to a lesser extent. But their outside backs were cut apart. It's particularly throughout the second half by Nico. But we'll get your thoughts, Barn.
Well, the big part of the first half was the Roosters slowing down to play the ball. I think they went out with a definite plan that we can't let this Sharks smaller pack get the roll through the middle because by the back end of the game, that's what was happening, and that's why they were able to get in and around and cause the problems. And they were just generally on either side of the ruck as well. It wasn't like it was a spread and hit an edge. It was cause the problem on the edge of the ruck and then get the ball out wide and then go from there. So, which you saw with the Nico run from dummy half and Nakora busting a few holes to 1 pass off the ruck and stuff like that. So, but that's where most of these penalties came from in the first half. Yep. It was just continual Roosters trying to slow down the play the ball. Every time putting 3 and 4 blokes in there, laying all over the play the ball. There was a period there for about 10 minutes where the Sharks had the ball down on the Roosters line and they just penalty after penalty, reset, penalty, and they were just continually laying all over the ball and the Sharks just couldn't seem to get out to the edges fast enough, which led to them not being able to score points. It's a bit hard to judge this game because the Sharks were pretty bad for half an hour, 40 minutes, but the Roosters were probably pretty bad for 50 or 60. So I really would have liked to seen both teams at their best. They both put in a massive effort. It was a physical game. They were getting stuck into each other. There's some big shots in defence and some really hard running out of the likes of Collins, Warrior-Hargraves, Nikora, Oregon Kafusi made a couple of nice runs as well. But, the Sharks just, obviously that last half an hour, 20 minutes, they were much better than the Roosters. I don't know if that was a fitness thing. I think maybe because they'd spent so much time tackling early in the game, it probably wore down on them at the back end of the game. And the fact that they had the cheese off the field, Brandon Smith for half an hour, 40 minutes, really didn't help their cause.
I feel like they're, unless he's not fit, and he doesn't look that way, but I feel like they're overprotecting him.
Yeah, I think so.
And they've made this big song and dance about building him up to 80 minutes, but he needed to be on the field.
Yeah, they completely lost their way when he came off for probably the first 15 minutes. Their service out of dummy half was horrible.
They've made the decision this week to drop Walker.
Mm-hmm.
We know when you're on the outer with Uncle Nick, you find yourself at the Bulldogs pretty quickly or somewhere else. But is he to blame? Is it just looking for some fluidity? No. Fluidity, is that a word?
He's very much an individualistic type of player.
I don't know if that's a word either, but that's good.
Individualistic?
Yeah,
I think
enough.
so.
It'll do.
Maybe. But
it's a majestical word.
He generally looks for himself before he starts looking for his outsides and trying to set somebody else. He's the one who's trying to throw the pass. He's not just trying to shovel it out because there's good ball to be had outside. He kicks for himself a lot and that kind of stuff, which is probably something that they're trying to get, a bit of it out of his game, to be honest. And he's definitely not the reason to be dropped. But obviously, you saw what they did last year. About this time of the year, they put Manu in at 6, and they reaped the benefits from it. And the team was humming there for probably 6 weeks. They just went from being very clunky, like they have started this start of the year as well, and to absolutely flying for 5 or 6 weeks later with Manu buzzing in and around the ruck. And that was caused through injury, I'm pretty sure, last year. But this year, it's they've forced their hand.
Kieran was out for like half the year.
I just think they're trying to spark their attack because it's been very clunky for large parts of the year. And you've seen what Manu can do ball in hand, so he does seem a little wasted at times, sitting out in the centres.
He should be playing somewhere in the spine. No doubt about that. So we'll see what he brings this week. Just before I'll get you to talk about Nico, just touch on Blake Brayley. Something we don't really talk about a lot, but 45 tackles. He has some of the better service in the comp.
His tackle technique's brilliant as well.
Yeah, how important is he to this team?
He gets bumped off a little bit because he is a smaller bloke, but his tackling technique is fantastic, and he's probably one of the reasons that this middle doesn't get pulled apart at times because him and McGuinness work really well together in defence. And, as you mentioned, his service is fantastic. I don't think you see much faster service out of dummy half. He's quite clever in the way he runs the ball as well, which, generally the old rule of as soon as there's one marker down, he's off and he's going. But he doesn't just run into the line to take the tackle either. He's looking for supports and he's trying to get somebody else in a better position than what he's in. So, he seems he's a very clever footballer and very strong defence for a little bloke and reap the rewards in this one with the try backing up down the inside with Nico.
Nico was outstanding the last half hour. There's not many better players now that he's confident, but when he gets space and time, he's just dangerous because I think he's so confident he knows he's got 2 or 3 options. He's played fullback, so he knows he's quick enough to beat a bloke. He's got a good passing game both ways. He's happy to even poke a kick behind the line. He just
seems quite intelligent as well.
It seems like he's one of the smarter footballers in general.
Yeah, he chooses his moments
but he's got very clear
well.
judge. Like it's not cluttered either.
No.
You go and watch Luke Brooks or someone. It's second guessing.
He's got a really big boot on him, which gets him out of trouble a lot of times as well. They'll basically just give it to him on the 4th and he'll just put it 50, 60 metres down the field, which can change the momentum of a game. But he's got some touch on his kicks as well. He's got that really good sort of chip bomb out for the Nikoras of the world and Jesse Ramian and that he aims at the halves and decent little grubber on him. Wouldn't mind having someone as a second sort of backup kicker, but we don't really have that at the moment. But, he's for me, it's the timing of when to challenge the line. That's probably one of his biggest attributes. Like, because he's really good at picking when to run and who to run at. Realistically, what gaps to aim for, and he'll angle out knowing that he's coming back for an inside shoulder and a lazy marker that hasn't chased on the inside, and he's really good at picking teams apart with his running game. So.
And I think in a case of some of these where some players, and maybe even Sam Walker, some players aren't necessarily flattered, is where they're trying something again, the support's not there. And Cronulla, when they're good, they're
that's
some of the best hole hitters.
absolutely.
Nukara, all of them, just great hole hitters.
It's one of the
Wilton,
ways they set up their game,
And obviously the wingers finish from everywhere, but even to your point earlier about Brayley, you're only so good out of dummy half as a bloke that's going to hit the hole for you. So they're great at that.
Their wingers generally stay on their wing. They don't sort of cut back in too much unless there's a reason to do so. So there's always width there as well, which gives you the option, even if your centres and your second rowers are running different angles inside and outside your halves, you've still got the width if you want to go for the long ball out to a winger. So, and they're fantastic finishers, both of them. So,
what else you want to touch on here?
What did I have? Obviously the unfortunate hip drop, which was pretty unlucky, and then Moylan he's kissed on the arse and picks it up and runs away for the first try. I've already mentioned the penalties and the restarts. We've gone over that pretty thoroughly. I thought the Roosters bench added very little in this game, which was one of the reasons that rotation, once it did come in, they dropped away pretty markedly, and the Sharks did take advantage of that.
Completely different bench this week, so
that
makes a difference.
Hopefully. Keary was the pick of the halves. The forwards probably just edged the Sharks a little bit in physicality anyway. The Sharks were quicker and sort of buzzing around and causing a few issues on the ruck, but the Collins and Hargraves were really a handful to stop through the middle of the field. But again, they don't really have a lot of blokes trailing through looking for the ball once you've got the likes of Collins and that are standing in tackles. Yeah. So something they could probably look at. I thought Cheese did a good job. He's very good, especially his second injection. He came back on, and I was a little bit worried there for 5 or 10 minutes where he was starting to cause problems straight away. I think the first touch he had, he went and he was causing problems back through the middle of the field. And then there was a couple of good forward runs, and they just charged down the field as soon as he came back on, which was very noticeable. The Butcher Boys were the best two players on the field for the Roosters. As you already mentioned, their defence was fantastic, and Nat was probably a little bit stronger in the running, overall running, than Egan. Egan is really starting to turn into that wrecking ball on an edge. Man, he hits that ball hard when he does run onto that line. I think it's 2 weeks in a row he's just gone straight through the defence and scored a try. Just running that really ferocious line. Bit like Nakora on the other side for the Sharks. I thought Talakai and Mulatalo were the best of the Sharks back five. They did make some impact there. Probably Talakai's best game this year. He really was busting through tackles and setting up Mulatalo on his outside. Their pack was good. The whole pack was good, which was probably the difference between the two sides realistically. Their bench wasn't real good either, though. The Sharks, their bench was pretty poor, I thought. Especially Royce Hunt, who needs, I don't know, he seems to lose his head 2 or 3 times every game and causes problems for his own team. But Brayley and Nicola were the best of the forwards. You could throw Teague Wilton in there too, who was really strong in this game. The halves are both good, but Nico just did Nico things. He split them open when it needed to happen. He was the one that was providing either the ball playing or the running game to break them open. Yeah.
So let's give him 3, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Where am I going next?
Brayley with 2.
Okay, yeah, cool.
45 tackles, and I think he was up over 100 run metres or close enough to.
And then either Nicola, Cheese, or one of the Butchers, you think?
I had Nicola or Egan, but Egan just because of the try that he scored, but.
Give it to Egan because, like I said, I think it's 40 if he's not on the field.
If Nat didn't get sent for 10, it probably would have been Nat, but that sort of cost him a little bit.
No, fair enough. All right, we roll along. Of course, just quickly, check out rugbyleaguemerch.com.au to buy some of these hats and beanies as we get into the cooler weather. One more club shirt, plenty going on there. Check them out, Steins and coasters and all sorts of good stuff. If you're listening on Spotify, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Footy and Frothies. If you're watching on YouTube, and want something to listen to in the car, you can go find us on Spotify, iTunes, and every good podcasts are found. So that's the plugs out of the way. Talk about physical. We got to 18-8. The Seagulls gave it to the Storm in another entertaining game of footy. Pretty much blasted them off the park. At no point did you ever really feel like the Storm were in this game, to be honest. It was most enjoyable, I will say. There was, as I said, plenty going on, some late shots, some high shots, everything in between, some very hard shots, I know that. Olam was collecting a few ribs after a couple and vice versa. So what did the stats say, though, Barn?
Yeah, we had 2 tries for Manly, 1 for the Storm, 2 out of 2 conversions. Played 0 out of 1 for the Storm, 3 out of 4 penalties for Manly, and 2 out of 2 for the Storm. 36 out of 43 sets, played 27 out of 38. 226 plus running metres and 122 plus post-contact metres for Manly. 3 line breaks from both sides, 33 tackle busts to 14, 7 offloads to 6, 5 forced dropouts to 1, 0 40-20s, 296 tackles, played 344, 1 ruck infringement to 0, 2 inside the 10s to 1. 6 penalties conceded by Manly, 9 conceded by the Storm, 10 errors to 11. 1 sin bin, played 2, Jake with 36 tackles, Liero with 45, Tom with 200 running metres, and Warbrick with 160. DCE with 104 Supercoach points, Paseka with 66, and Warbrick with 65.
I'll start with Warbrick, just came out of the way, but I like his upward trajectory now. I think he's starting to get a better feel for everything, and he's going to be a fine, serviceable first-grade winger.
It's hard to tackle.
Big and strong. Had some good moments here. Once he gets his head, I think he's still learning. Just give him a tick out of everyone in this Melbourne team, really.
Different game to rugby sevens, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Where do we start? The physicality was a difference. Olakuatu, Paseka, and Jake decided they were just going to snap as many people as they could. LA got his angry head on, which he's known to do at times. But
it was a brilliant performance, and I'm here for it. I love seeing that kind of stuff. Mentioned in the first 2 weeks, this was Manly from the first 2 weeks. They were out on a mission to absolutely fold every forward that came running their way in the middle of the field. And I loved it. Loved seeing it, man. It was fantastic.
The only bloke that stood up for Melbourne... Oh, I will say King and Cadell tackled their ass off and did try hard on the other end, but I think Christian Walsh matched the fight as best he could. The rest of them...
Liero had a crack.
But they were shown up and well so. So I don't think... I know it's hard to do when you're getting folded, as you said, but I don't think necessarily... Munster at fullback helped. It looked like everyone was just out of position. I think that the sync that I talked about last week, how good they are together, and that was missing. It just nothing they did was right. They're in each other's way. I think there was a couple of times where they made decisions away from each other that looked like an average team.
When they did look good, it was when Munster came back and started playing 5'8" again because he was playing 2 positions in this game and he had to cover both of them. His positioning was pretty good in defence at fullback, but they really need him in that front line and when they're attacking. He just makes the difference. He makes the defence question on exactly what's going to happen because he's not real sure what's going to happen. I think half the time either. So just sort of makes it up on the fly, and his footwork and speed's enough to cause problems if he decides to run it. And his passing game's as good as anyone really when he's on. So.
Keep going, so give your take on their pack and then maybe even touch on some of their backs got quite physical at times as well. Yeah,
well, Melbourne dead set only matched Manly for 5 or 10 minutes in this game, and it was probably 5 minutes in each half, really. And it was the outside backs that were doing it. It wasn't getting done through the middle of the field. It was the likes of Olam coming in and taking runs and Warbrick, which would get them on the front foot, and then they could play from there. But, they got really out-muscled in the middle of the field, which something we've been expecting, actually. And they've been holding their own for a little while now, but they were definitely showing up with their lack of size in the middle of the field for the Melbourne team. They scrambled really well, which kept the game as close as it was.
Absolutely.
I think they saved 2 or 3 tries in the first half, and the score could have been 20 blot going into half-time or something like that, 20-4 or whatever it may have been. And the game could have been completely different at the back end. But, their defensive scramble, which the coach has been knocking them for a couple of weeks about, at the start of the year about how poor they have been. The last 2 weeks has been fantastic, and they've probably saved 6 or 7 tries in the last 2 weeks with their scramble defence. So if they can keep doing that, they're going to stay close enough to be in most games of footy. But they were they did really well to shut Manly down a few times, but Manly were quite good as well at shutting. Storm did have a couple of opportunities out wide, and I think they also saved a try or two, just either side of half time against the Melbourne side. So.
He saved one, but he was quite good defensively, chopping some guys down late there as well.
Harper had one of his better games that we've seen out of him for quite some time, and he was pretty good in defence as well, I thought. Out there, but such a brutal encounter. I've got a few question marks on how both of these teams aim up next week. Or this week coming.
We'll save that for preview because we'll save it for preview.
Beautiful little chip from DCE for that first try for Tommy. Tom was obviously on the front foot, and it was really hard to hold him out because Munster was up in the line, but he did get back, but obviously not close enough to stop the try. And it was DCE's kicking game that really kept them in this game as well. 5 forced dropouts. I'm pretty sure they were all his. There was one point there seemed like 15 or 20 minutes where they just were absolutely peppering Melbourne's line with, dropout after dropout, and Melbourne kept going short, so and not getting the ball back. So they were coming at them from 10, 15 metres out on their line, and that was the period where Melbourne scrambled really well and managed to keep them out. But I really thought Manly should have run away with this game at the back end.
I don't think you necessarily agree, but I still think Tommy's on one leg.
Absolutely.
And it's not he's not trying.
No, he's having a go.
He's doing 200 metres, but there's a couple of times where they're just pushing that past. Where usually Tommy hits a hole and off he goes. He's just that step slower.
He's still thinking about his running style because obviously that's what they're trying to change.
It was obvious on a couple of occasions, and I think even hitting holes like 12 months ago, he would have burst straight through over the top of some of this defence and scored another try.
Absolutely.
But I agree with everything. DC was just a magician here. He was absolutely fantastic. And it takes a calmness as well to be able to just settle for those 5 repeat sets and not panic or try and push too much. And he just brings that.
The bench rotation for Melbourne was pretty good. There was 2 of them that really stood out for me, and Alec McDonald and Garlic that both come in and had a really good crack off the bench. Which sort of it seemed to stiffen them up there for a little period of time, just sort of either side of half time. But Remus Smith was pretty good, probably his best game of the year. You've already mentioned
he looked the most dangerous, I think, out of the backs in terms of footwork.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Warbrick was decent, as you already mentioned. Munster was good, but as I said, had to play 2 different positions, which doesn't help. We've mentioned the forwards, Welch and Liero, who were Liero I thought was probably their best player, and Welch was really good as well in the middle of the field. The Trebojevic boys were good, but they weren't, outstanding like they are in some weeks. And Jake, while he was still quite good in the middle of the field, I think he was shown up by a couple of the others, to be honest.
I still thought Jake was brilliant. I thought he doesn't miss tackles.
He doesn't miss tackles.
He hurts when he tackles.
Yeah. I was really wrapped in Sipley's return, to be honest, coming in off the bench. I think he played about 50 minutes and he was really strong through the middle of the field. And Bullymore was good as well, coming off the bench for them, which I think sees him starting this week. So good to see that he's been rewarded with that. Paseka and Olakawatu were quite good, and Croker at dummy half was really quite good at times, getting his forwards onto the ball and getting them down into good position. There's some really nice skill in both of Manly's tries. Obviously, I mentioned the chip kick, but the offload from Paseka when he was just about to hit the ground and he pops it back for Croker to score the try. I thought that was one of the better parts of the play in the game. But
speaking of returns, I thought Sabra was great.
Yeah, he was actually.
He was the most physical I've seen him, manning up in tackles, and I do love, and we'll get to see some long-range tries this year, but I love that kick for him early. I think they didn't try it till late in the game, but it's there, and we'll see plenty of it.
Come to think of it, he was actually really good, wasn't he?
He was the most physical I've seen him, definitely.
He's been throwing a few weights around, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I'll give him not necessarily a rap, but I thought Aaron Woods was fine in his debut. He only had one dumb moment early, and the rest was he was doing his usual work. So
had a try taken off him too,
didn't he? Did have a try taken off him. So more power to him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to see a stalwart of the game. You don't want to see him fade away. So
yeah, as you said, I think for both teams, the thing to take out of this, I would be concerned how they back up this week.
Going to be some sore boys.
There'll be some sore boys, and that's very interesting when we get to the preview show. I'm giving DCE 3.
Mm-hmm.
I had this in trying to split up. I had Jake in the numbers. I had Olakau'atu in numbers. I had.
I had Sipley for 2.
I didn't consider Sipley.
Got his stats there. Right. Go and have a look at them because they were tremendous
in 40 minutes.
Yeah,
16 helps, 160. Yeah, give him 2. Honorary mention Walsh as well because I thought he was.
Yeah. Welch was very good
up there. But who we give 1 to?
I had Paseka or Liero. I thought they were 2 of the really more dynamic ball runners for both of their sides. So
give it to Paseka.
Yeah.
Wasn't it a weekend for front row forwards?
Absolutely,
and
it was.
So I've just given away my salute, but there were some front row efforts this week. Let's get to 22-14. The Warriors held on and 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 held on against the Cowboys, and then held on some more and then scored in the second half.
Talking of front rowers, I know almost every game the Warriors play, I have $1 on Fanua Blake, first try scorer.
Yeah, and here he was.
And I fucking didn't do it, did I? He was only paying 80s. It's okay.
I know.
Warriors 22, Cowboys 14, 4 tries to 3, 2 out of 4 conversions, 1 out of 3 for the Cowboys. 1 out of 2 penalty attempts for the Warriors. 27 out of 35 sets played, 36 out of 42 for the Cowboys. Enough ball to win this game, and yeah, we'll get to it. 242 running metres plus for the Cowboys. 4 line breaks to 5. 37 tackle busts by the Warriors, 16 by the Cowboys. 4 offloads from both sides. 1 forced dropout from the Warriors, 4 from the Cowboys. No 40-20s. 346 tackles played, 265 for the Cowboys. That's massive. 5 ruck infringements to 0, 0 inside the 10s to 1, 7 penalties conceded to 9, 10 errors by the Warriors, 7 by the Cowboys. Tavanga with 47 tackles, Robson with 37, Charles Nickel-Clockstab with 180 metres, and Tuolagi with 186. Cotter with 81 Supercoach points, Fanua Blake with 79, and Curran with 75.
Well, kudos to the Warriors because I said they would have defended for 28 minutes in the second half.
Absolutely,
I reckon.
Yeah.
It was just non-stop. But what does that then say about the Cowboys' attack? Townsend looked somewhere between flustered and lost most of the time.
Yeah, completely lost at the moment.
He was shocking on the weekend, absolutely shocking. And I don't know if that's resolved.
He doesn't seem to want to do anything but kick the ball.
No, or shovel it on, and it's it shows because I think teams have jerried their one point of attack is going to be Drinkwater, and they shut it down and did to an extent, but didn't usually going to have that run.
Yeah, he's going to run the ball, and so Drinkwater's the one trying to put people away. Yeah.
They just looked terrible here, the Cowboys. I thought, given how much ball they had, this was a sort of effort you see from the Dragons level teams that just attack and don't come up with points, and it wouldn't happen 12 months ago.
Yeah.
So
same with the Warriors. The Warriors would not have hung on like this
exactly right.
12 months ago.
So are you leaning towards the former or latter there? The Warriors?
I'm absolutely loving what I see out of the Warriors. And for me, game after game, they're firming for a top 8 spot and probably...
I think they're just about... I hate to use it. I think their morals to make the 8.
Further away, further up from the 8 than down towards it. So they're looking fantastic at the moment, and their commitment is brilliant, which we've said this year many times already. But their fitness and resilience, they just turn up, and they're quite physical as well. They've got a massive pack, and they make they leave it all out there. So it's been top notch. The Cowboys just continue to play this same long pass side to side shit that they were playing last year without earning the right through the middle of the field. Last year that was built on them wearing teams down through the middle of the field, punching holes in the middle, and then going wide. At the moment, they seem to just go 1-2 hit up and then try to spread it out to Val and Tuolungi and Drinkwater on the edges, and it's getting them nowhere because they're not bending the middle back. So there's the defence just slides with the ball and they get belted out wide.
And we've touched on
no
the
scoring
size
opportunities
they've
coming.
But I think it's showing through now.
Yeah, absolutely.
No Luciano, no Tamalolo, one-legged Tamalolo, but no Tamalolo
no
now.
Tom Gilbert.
No Gilbert.
Cotter's been in and out of the side.
And now
injury.
Tamo. So. I think it just shows up. It's a great point because unless you're bending the line, well, it's quite easy to sit back and
they continue to throw cut out. They go cut out, and it's out in the centre and the wings, and the defence is just standing there looking at them, going, "Okay, what are you going to do now? Like we've got a whole line here. You got to find a way through."
Yep.
And unless there's a piece of brilliance or a little kick in behind the line, nothing seems to be happening. So.
it makes me nervous when it gets to the stage where just someone thinks they have to try their own thing. And you just get lots of this running. We've talked about lots and lots of running around in circles, or shitty little chip kicks.
Putting a little chip in, or Val trying to bust through 4 people when they're just standing right in front of him. It's becoming more and more concerning because it keeps happening week after week. Drinkwater, as you mentioned, seems to be their only point of ball playing at the moment, and he does get into the line a little bit and causes a problem with a cutout pass here or there, but that's 1 or 2 tries. You need to find another way. You
can sum up most of Drinkwater's try assists with rainbow ball.
It runs at the 5'8" and throws a cutout.
Yeah, or a grubber like in behind back into the post, and it's about the Dearden playbook, the Drinkwater playbook. Yeah.
Townsend needs to start going to the line with options, which they're not providing on either side. Dearden needs to continue to run the ball, but he needs to take options with him as well, because he either seems to run the ball for himself or put a kick in behind the line, and that's about the extent of his game at the moment as well. And they're just so limited in their attacking options. It's becoming glaringly obvious, and they're not doing the work through the middle either. I know they've got a few outs in the middle there, and they've put their all their eggs in the basket of a few kids that are coming through, and they're just not aiming up at the moment. So
no. For the Warriors, Dylan Walker's just ended beast mode now.
How good is he?
Like, he turned up enormous this year, and he just keeps fucking. He's a wrecking ball now.
He was good at 5'8" too. He provided a few good attacking options for them. He was busting through tackles as well. He shaved his head and turned into a different player. Tavanga again was absolutely brilliant. He just seems to be one of those players that absolutely loves the physicality. Like, the harder you hit him, the more he just seems to enjoy it. It just revs him up and gets him going even further. But yeah, they were pretty well beaten all over the field, I thought. I know that the Cowboys did start to win the middle in the second half, and that was where they got the ball back and they continued to, pressure the Warriors time and time again. But with limited options, the pressure was building, but there was no way they just couldn't break down the Warriors' defensive line, and that's kudos to them, because there's been, the last 4 or 5 years, the Warriors have been lucky to go more than 15 minutes without conceding a try.
Yeah, I think the last 2 years they've conceded the most, like more than. If they weren't the most last year, the Tigers were. They were in the but the year before, I think that they're in the conversation as well.
No, the Cowboys were pretty slow and soft all over the field, really. There's only a few of them that were really worth mentioning. Tamalolo, Robson and Nanai were average, maybe okay if you want to go that far. I thought Granville was decent, and he was probably provided more options than most of them. And Cotter was easily their best player, coming back off the back of an injury. He was fired up and shot out of a cannon a few times, but there's not a lot more to mention there. The Warriors were all decent to good. I don't think they had a poor player out there, to be honest. Walker, Montoya and Ford were really good. Harris coming back after a couple of weeks layoff
for
injury.
Little, was pipe opener for him. Just get 30 tackles out of the way.
Absolutely, some really good charges with the ball as well. Tavanga, Curran has been very strong the last 2 weeks. I think
Curran's worked out again what his best role is.
He's got a few errors in him, and he gets a little bit hot-headed occasionally, and his head high here and there and a drop ball. But he's really putting in. He's making a lot of tackles, and he's a lot of hard runs, which is got him back in the starting side, I think, now.
I think it started. It's almost like, because he was a standout a lot last year in a shitty team, and it's almost like he's had to now earn his stripes.
They're all playing good.
It's like, oh fuck, these are New Zealand. He's an international forward back at their best, most of them. He's now got to step up to that. It's almost like he had to just refine himself a bit there.
Yeah.
And he has, and he's, like I said, it's a different role for him, but it's a
last 2 weeks he's been fantastic, and probably one for your super coaches if you're willing to lean that way. Fanua Blake and Sean Johnson were the difference in this game. Yeah. They were by far the best players on the field.
Yep.
I had Fanua Blake with a 3. I gave him man of the match. I thought he was brilliant ball in hand, which is when he's at his best, he's so hard to handle. He just causes all sorts of problems through the middle of the field, and he takes 2 and 3 blokes with him. Like, he'll hit the line and come out 10 metres past with 2 blokes hanging on to him and 1 bloke left on the ground behind him, and he did that a few times in this game. Sean Johnson was fantastic again, cool, calm, composed. His kicking game has been brilliant. Really lovely pass to put Curran away for the last try of the game, the one that sealed the match at the end of the game, like the one you mentioned earlier with Trell, the double pump and the soft hands just to put a bloke through a hole. And then I had three blokes all in for the one. I had Cotter from the Cowboys or Curran or Tavanga for the one.
I don't think give Tavanga a point in the last month, and I think he deserves one. So give it to him. Just on the back, well, let's just check the stats here. I think he made 40-something. Yeah, 47 tackles. And I don't think too many of them were too soft. So let's get to... You're good to keep ploughing on?
Yeah, mate.
Look at you. Look at us. 16-15, golden point struck again with Panthers and a Nathan Cleary field goal. 2 Nathan Cleary field goals. Getting them home in, a game which maybe, I don't know if it exposed Penrith or whatever, but let's talk about some stats first.
3 tries to 2, 1 out of 3 conversions for the Knights, 1 out of 2 for Penrith. 1 out of 2 1-point field goals for the Newcastle, 2 out of 4 for Penrith. The Knights missed with their 1 attempt at penalty goal, and Penrith kicked 2 from 2. 27 out of 40 sets, played 31 out of 42. 460 plus running metres and 99 post-contact metres ahead for Penrith. 2 line breaks to 3, 30 tackle busts to 24, 5 offloads to 9, 2 forced dropouts from both teams. 140-20 for Penrith, 364 tackles played, 329. 2 ruck infringements from both sides, 1 inside the 10 against Penrith. 9 penalties conceded by Newcastle, 6 by Penrith. 12 errors to 14, which would be concerning for Ivan there, I would imagine. Mann with 46 tackles, Kenny with 52, Marzu with 153 running metres, and Edwards with 222. Cleary with 86 Supercoach points, Frizzell with 77 and a hair pull, and Yo with 69.
This was another physical match where Penrith got out-physicaled.
They did.
They got bashed here, and they didn't like it.
Until they reset in the last 20 minutes
Fisher
or so.
Harris and... no, they had Leota. Sorry.
No, Leota was there.
Else.
Yeah.
Who am I thinking of? Liam Martin wasn't on the field for too long. But
no, he wasn't.
They got bashed here, and didn't like it, played off the back foot, and they're not especially good at it. But I thought Newcastle were very good.
The service seemed a bit slow again this week out of Kenny, which doesn't help with the roll through the middle of the field. But, Newcastle played close to their best game of footy that they've played this year, and they've played some good football this year.
Given what's been thrown at them with injury after injury as well, not quite Bulldogs level, but getting there.
Not there.
I thought they were fantastic again. Lockie Miller just lights the field up. Every time he touches the ball, you feel like something's going to happen. And I think defensive lines are now a bit scared of him because they tend to hang off a little bit.
What could have been.
Exactly. Well, still we get to see Metcalf put both legs back on as well.
Yeah, hopefully. One day. Poor bloke's had more injuries than games, I think, in his career.
But, like your Frizzells and Thompson for a bit there till he got injured. And
Frizzell was brilliant in this game.
And Saifidi had probably his best game as well
absolutely.
this year.
Yep.
They just gave it the Penrith forward pack, and they built the platform off the back of that.
Yep.
Phoenix Crossland was good, service was good, and did some clever stuff. Was it his kick this game that led to one of the tries? Was it last week?
No, I don't think it was this week.
No, it wasn't this week. No, it wasn't. He scored the one at the end.
Newcastle were the better side for at least the first half, probably 60 minutes realistically. But Penrith got back into that arm wrestle. Like they didn't seem to be want to get involved in that type of play for a good 40, 50, 60 minutes, but they did. They went back there.
What it was? Yo and his footwork through the middle, and there it was.
Absolutely. As you said before, there's teams that just get to that point and go, look, this isn't working. We need to go back to what we know is going to work. And it was Hopgood on one edge. It was Hosking on one edge.
Who is matching Yo's output?
Yeah, absolutely. Yo through the middle.
I don't think they can afford to leave him out now.
A good 10-minute stint from Spencer Leniu, and then another good 10 minutes from Leota, which really sort of, got him back into this game and into good field position. And some really good kicking from Cleary, which is every week. He's got one of the better long kicking games when they're in trouble to get him down the other end of the field. Newcastle just too many errors. There's too many errors from both teams realistically, but and it stopped the game from getting into that free-flowing state where it could have been 24 plays 28 or something like that at the back end of the game. But Panthers seemed to off kilter for a long part of this match. They, as you mentioned, they were getting belted. They didn't like it. They seemed very unorganised at different points in this game, and it wasn't Penrith. It was what Newcastle were dishing up to them, and they weren't really sure how to react. I think because not a lot of teams have put up that kind of physicality and just constant pressure that they had to deal with in this game. opposition was matching them in the middle, and they were killing them on the edges. As you mentioned, Lockie Miller was causing all sorts of problems out wide, but it was only due to Penrith's scramble that kept them in this game, as long as, again, another team that scrambled their way in defence to be able to keep out some tries here from this Newcastle team, whose attack has gone through the absolute roof this year compared to what it was last year. They didn't look like scoring a point last year, but we'll see what happens when Ponga comes back into the fold this week.
Before he goes, I think we need to wrap Tyson Gamble. He's done quite a good job as the interim 5'8".
He's going to go into 14, so
he's going to get plenty. He'll probably play 60 minutes. He'll play dummy half
and dummy half, and
probably more lock, like what Kurt Mann's job used to be, I suppose. But he's tough. He hits a line hard. He gives them a gobful.
Yep.
Him and Hastings obviously have a really good understanding because they're close to the best kick for each other combination that we've seen this year at least.
Two of the best sledges in a comp.
And two of the best sledges in the comp. In another world, they could have been the Tigers' halves because Tyson Gamble's a former Tiger. Just to dwell on that one as well. Anyway, but he'll fit in fine wherever he goes. It is interesting to see what Ponga brings to this team, whether it disjoints them, whether it picks them up, whether him and Lockie can tag team and drop in and out of the line, and maybe it creates another. We are heading to Origin, so maybe.
Newcastle did a really good job of slowing down Penrith's middle. They put them on their back. They got physical with them. They hung in and around the play of the ball, which led to a bit of stop-start play, which Penrith really don't like. They like to continual ball in play, constant pressure. And, it rattled them for a long time in this game. Newcastle probably should have won, realistically.
They should have won.
Their sustained defence was brilliant. They just couldn't find a way to crack them with different opportunities that they had. And but the 10 errors from Newcastle was probably the reason that they didn't win this game. Penrith made mistakes, but a lot of it was through their setup stuff in the middle of the field, like a bad play of the ball, a drop ball out of a forward trying to march down through the middle of the field. A lot of Newcastle's errors came in try-scoring opportunities, with good ball, a one-on-one opportunity, ball hits somebody on the chest and they drop it. And, if you hold on to that ball, it could create a quick play of the ball. You could beat your one-on-one defender and then you score. So a lot of their stuff came on the back of attacking plays rather than Penrith, which was sort of just the ruck through the middle of the ruck. But, it really didn't help. Fitzgibbon was fantastic, I thought. So was Hastings and Gamble. They were good. Mann and Frizzell were great in this game. I don't think I've ever seen Kurt Mann make so many tackles. No. He made 45, 46 tackles. And Frizzell was close back representative days. He was absolutely killing it, ball in hand. He was brushing guys off, making good cover defence as well. I thought he was fantastic for the Newcastle side.
Let me think about this. He's almost the form back rower of the comp if you're picking a New South Wales team.
Last couple of weeks he has been,
Or last probably 3 at least. I'm just trying to think.
Brilliant.
Who's been more consistently who's been consistently as good as him week in week, and he'll be in the conversation, I'm sure, because he's been there, done it. But we'll see where Crichton and that fit back in this week. But she's been good.
The bench was okay for Penrith. Hoskins, Leota, and Kenny were very good, I thought. And just Clear and Yo, they were the difference. Yeah. They generally always are.
Well, we'll touch on the actual winning of the game to nail. Well, what a finish to have Cleary nail a field goal and Hastings nail it from Gamble. Set up, which he does, which is the Hastings playbook. Take all of the pressure, so the other
and then give it to the other bloke.
Nails, and he did nail it, Gamble. And then Cleary and the Spencer Leniu run, they were going nowhere, and Lenu's ran 15 metres to get him a shot. It was
and a quick play
fantastic
of the ball.
finish. But he does it.
I was surprised that he missed two that he missed, to be honest.
Yeah, and they weren't pretty at all.
No, they weren't.
Well, the first one was so bad I thought Hastings had actually charged it down, and he missed it.
Yeah, he just obviously shanked the outside of the ball, but and you don't see him do it 2 times in a row, and he didn't.
No one's perfect.
The last one was just on 38, 39 metres or something, and he absolutely drilled it through the middle.
The only bloke we haven't touched on that I want to give a bit of rap to is Tungo. His footwork, he looked very dangerous out wide. Probably the most
all year, really. He's probably been one of their most consistent performers.
He's been their best outside back, I think, and outside back. And you're really growing into a very top quality centre. So
it's hard to get a hold of. As just mentioned, his footwork's brilliant, and he's got really good acceleration as well. So I'm not sure how he goes over 80 or 90 metres, but that first 15 or 20, he's very sharp. And he steps off a dime. So
let's get Penrith fans mad. I was watching this game, and I was watching Jerome Luai.
Let's do it.
And I realised Jerome Luai is Luke Brooks. He has a shit left foot kicking.
With a worse kicking game.
He's got a worse kicking game than Luke Brooks. He does the same plays. He tries to run that same line, and he achieves nothing. And when he panics, he either runs around in circles. He doesn't have his big man outside him kick out anymore, which has exposed him. And I just don't know where his creativity actually comes from.
He's got
that.
I give him the fact that he's got a better step and probably a little bit more physical than Brooks, but
he's
other
not as fast
than that...
I'll go as far to say, if you today picked up Luke Brooks and chopped him into this exact Penrith team, this exact Luke Brooks, not Luke Brooks from 5 years ago.
No, the bloke who's been playing
Brooks
this
today
year.
Gave him a month with Penrith, he'd be a better Jerome Luai than Jerome Luai.
Yeah. No, I'd have to agree with you. People would be sitting there and go,
fuck, well, he could be in New South Wales. He'd be a superstar in his Penrith team.
Brooks has probably had one of his better years in a long time, to be honest.
Given where he's come from, he has. And I don't want to make it about Luke Brooks, but it's more a reflection on Luke Brooks would add more to this team than what they're getting out of Jerome Luai. And until I see otherwise...
I'd almost go as far to say Matt Moylan would probably offer more than
in terms of touch and just a bit of patience, potentially. But for what the game Luai is playing right now, Brooks is faster, a better tackler, and has a better kicking game. Yeah. So, there's my little... rant. That's right in and tell me I'm wrong because I'm not. And you watch it. Watch Jerome Luai this week and see what I'm saying. And watch both of them. If I could be bothered and I can't, and I had access to the Fox archives, I reckon I could overlay them on each other and people go, oh, fuck. They're pretty similar. So, anyway, what do you think? Am I
My
right?
big knock on Luai is that I've never seen him put more than one game back-to-back. I've never seen him play back-to-back games of good back-to-back games.
We could name his best games on one hand. Whereas, you'd have to take your shoes off to name Cleary's. But you know what I mean? I just don't...
And the fact that he does have options. Like they do provide him with the depth. The wingers generally hold out on that left edge. He's had kick out for such a long time that it's just made his ball playing look a lot better than I think it actually is.
Yeah.
Because it's either the short ball to the back rower or the cutout to the winger. There's no real deception. There's no sort of holding the ball up to the last second to put. It's either just to hit the front runner or hit the guy behind. There's not a lot of, apart from his step and getting inside or outside defenders, his ball playing does leave a lot to be desired, in my opinion. But
yeah, I agree. So we'll keep an eye on it and write in next week. Watch them both this week. And
watch him absolutely come out and kill it this week.
You know what? Every time I have knocked someone on this show this year, Cody Walker's playing the best foot he's ever played.
Yeah.
Lachlan Fitzgibbon's now, a superstar. Except we haven't touched on what a fucking pelican. He deserved to be penalised for that shot, and I'm mildly shocked he didn't. I'm sure if the kick had missed, it would have been a kick straight in front for the high shot on the field goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
What sort of stupidity is that to do that? That situation.
Throwing a game away. It should have been penalised. Yeah.
Should have been penalised, but anyway, they won, and it probably should have cost Newcastle, or did cost Newcastle the game, but. I don't know. Anything else from this game? I think I've had my rant.
No, not really. I know Cleary kicked the field goals to win the match, but I had Isaiah Yeo as the man of the match. I think if he doesn't do what he did for that last half an hour in this game, they probably don't get any points realistically, because he was the one that was breaking open the middle of the field to provide the ball out wide, time and space, as I like to say, for Cleary and his compatriots outside of him. Cleary obviously gets a 2. Clutch moment, come in, take the 2, and he did do some very nice things during the game, forcing dropouts.
And he's not on the field, they lose 18.
They probably don't score a point.
18-0 or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I had Frizzell, Mann or Hoskins for the 1. I'm probably leaning towards Frizzell. I thought he was tremendous in this game.
I think Frizzell's worth getting noted. So, yes, I agree. I will say I don't think they can move Hoskins from that edge now. I think they should keep him there. Sorry, Luke Garner. Sorry. Whoever else is in line, but he should
it looks like
be
Sorensen
out
comes out
and working hard. And just
onto the bench. And
I said they need someone matching Yo's output, particularly because he didn't have the spark of kick out and haven't really had fish this year. So
and his defence is solid as well.
40. I think he had the same tackles.
He runs a really good, runs a fantastic line for Cleary out there, and it looks like they've struck up a combination already. So there's definitely something there for him.
And Nathan's the sort of guy to go, no, I want him outside, and more power to him in doing so.
The hair pull?
Well, we saw one in the game before that was not a hair pull.
Definitely wasn't intentional.
I don't think it was intentional. I don't think there's...
Trying to grab the jersey to bring him down.
It was less than intentional. Like, it wasn't even close to intentional.
Have you heard all the talk and the chat around what everyone's been saying?
Yes and no, but, like, do I think it should have been... Look, was upset it was a penalty a little bit, but I have seen worse. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I don't think it was by no means intentional. Probably one of the things that...
Well, I think if he doesn't have hair, he grabs the jersey.
He grabs the jersey and pulls him down.
So
one of the things, well, obviously, Fletch brought it up on the Sunday night show, Matty John's show. In the NFL, basically, if your hair comes out of your helmet and goes down to where your name would be across the top of your jersey there, just under the collar, it's considered part of your uniform.
Okay.
I probably don't disagree with it, to be honest. If, players trying to grab your collar as you're running past and your hair's sitting there, then, yeah.
I'd be fine with that rule. They won't like that rule, but I'd be fine with that rule. Well, that's it. Who do Penrith have Souths this week?
Yes.
This preview show's been interesting. Like, it's almost like everything's leading to another story, but we'll get to that soon. All right, Saturday night wrapped up 43-26. Eventually, the Broncos found their top gear, as they tend to do lately, and ran away from the Titans, who were fantastic for the first. Again, another one. I think probably one of the stories out this weekend is those sort of middle of the range, lower range teams are stepping up, but they just can't step up for, can't go as hard for as long as the best teams, really. But
they had them rattled. They had them completely rattled in the first
great game. From a man amongst men, but tell us some stats.
4 tries for the Titans, 7 for the Broncos. 4 out of 4 conversions, played 6 out of 7. 1 out of 1 field goal attempts for the Broncos. Both teams had 1 out of 1 penalty attempts. 30 out of 39 sets, played 30 out of 41. 200 plus running metres for the Broncos. 4 line breaks to 5. 19 tackle busts to 40. 9 offloads to 7. 1 forced dropout from both teams. 0 40-20s, 324 tackles played, 275, 4 ruck infringements to 1, 7 penalties conceded to 8, 9 errors to 13, 1 sin bin for the Titans. Fafita with 36 tackles, Carrigan with 31, Fodawaker with 200 running metres, and Payne Huss with 187. Reece Walsh with 101 Supercoach points, Adam Reynolds with 91, and David Fafita with 82.
Mo Fodawaker turned up against his forward pack and just decided he was going to wreak havoc.
Get the glint in your eye.
Oh, I was so happy watching this game. I was so happy. But it was awesome. He wasn't alone either. They had him rattled because Tino was there. Dave Fafita has had a pretty good year, like a low-key good year.
Brilliant.
Not a Fafita good year, but like not a traditional 7
He's
tries.
not tearing teams apart and tackle busts
like
and
even
tries.
Just seeing like leading the tackle counts. Just good. Like it's
never saw it last year. I think once
ticking boxes and he's... And he's still only, it says he's only 23.
23, yeah. Doing the dirty work, taking the dirty, hard hit-ups that, he was never doing last year. Yeah. Getting in the middle of the field and putting his nose to the grindstone in the defence as well. It's been brilliant.
But it's like they just turned up and said, right, well, we're up against Haas and Carrigan and, Origin's coming up, and they went out and fucking gave it to them and played like an Origin forward player. Like,
they took it like a personal challenge, especially those 3 you mentioned.
They clearly did. And when they didn't start Mo after half-time, I think they came out and scored 2 tries. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 55 minutes, bang, bang, and that shot. The game was shot by then. And they rushed him back on, but he could have played 80. I'm sure he needed a rest, but him and Tino can play 80. We've seen it, and I just thought that was the story of the game. He was outstanding. From a Titans point of view, Brian Kelly's come back fantastic form. His footwork has been good. Looks dangerous every time he runs the ball.
The defensive problems that he was showing last year.
No. Whether that's they've found the right people around him, whether it's just him getting into better form. And Cam Pereira, Supercoach cheapy, but growing into a dangerous first-grade winger. Fast, can take that speed off a dime and can break tackles, can beat guys.
You give him half an opportunity, he's probably gone before you realise what's happened, to be honest. Acceleration is deadly. Same with Reece Walsh, and a big part of blowing this game away at the back end. Again, just gets in and around and outside defenders before they know what's happened, and then you got the whole defensive line scrambling, trying to chase him. Yep. Over chase, under chase, whatever, and picks them apart. The bench rotation really seemed to swing this game for me. When the Titans went to their bench, it was a noticeable drop-off.
I also want to mention, just on the bench, and I'll let you elaborate, and I thought I'd noticed this because I think Gump messaged us and said, I think Brisbane are a better team with Pakes on the field too. I do think he makes a difference, and we noticed that through the middle. But Titans bench, you can keep going with what you were going to say.
Where was it? Yeah, it really swung the momentum for mine. There was a couple of really poor performances from some forwards from the Titans team. You look at Stimson and Luai, they were horrible. Yep. They had 4 and 5 runs between them when they really needed blokes to be picking up that slack when Mo was off the field and Tino was in the bin for 10 minutes. They just weren't getting involved. And that's generally the strength of those two players is their running game with the ball in hand.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened there.
We sort of know Stimson from Canterbury. We know, not necessarily pop the bloke, but I can't imagine it's a coincidence have gone out and found Thomas McKaylee to come in and give some grunt off the bench.
No, that's true. They just seemed uninterested and just wanted to watch the big boys play. Just sit back and watch the rest of them have a crack. Campbell and Khan provided some really good options in attack for the Titans. You mentioned Kelly. I thought Tanner Boyd was really good in this game for the Titans. And Tino was really good, minus his bin. Obviously, it was a really bad time of the game to get sent to the sin bin.
And he took it very personally, on himself, took it personally that he let them down, and probably did.
Mo and Fafita were brilliant. They were the best two Titans on the field by a long way. Herbie, Cobbo and Mam were strong. I thought they provided a lot of options for Reynolds and Walsh, who had the ball on a string at different times in this game. Ricky and Carrigan were also really good. It was the Haas, Reynolds and Walsh show again. Those Payne Haas and Walsh have gotten them to pretty much every win this year.
Yeah.
With Reynolds just steering the ship and getting them into the right positions, and then Walsh and Payne Haas jump on the back of it.
Reynolds is, and I think he's much happier having Walsh there because it just takes a lot of limelight off him. And he's just so fantastic. Him and DC are the best at dinner suit footy, and it's sort of a wrap to them because you can see he's loving it. He just picks his moments. He gets to show off sometimes, and the rest of it, he just has to get the ball to Mam, and Mam only has one job now. To be, Jerome Luai.
Run into the line and try and link up with somebody.
And link up with someone on the outside, and Walsh is Walsh, so it's...
But again, the kicking game from Reynolds was just absolutely pinpoint.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It caused so many problems for the back three for the Titans. Continually turned around their forwards, which probably went part of the way to them gassing out at the back end of this game. But, it was Reece Walsh again. It's just his pace, and his ball playing is much better than I ever gave him credit for, especially at the Warriors. And he's now linking up at will at times with players once he burns his inside defender, then gets somebody to turn in on him, and he's just picking the passes really well to put the outside men away.
And they're pretty good outside men. Cobbo hasn't really exploded yet.
Nope.
Herbie, and you've touched on the other three. But there'll be a day Cobbo scores a hat-trick and blows
absolutely.
Some guys away.
Staggs will get a hat-trick. Farnworth
will
get one.
They're... it obviously is the obvious. Carrigan quietly made 170 metres out, really capturing our attention. And Jordan Ricky, I'd mentioned him last week, but another try.
Really good.
I think he's picked up a bit of an injury, but I think he's named this week. But if you're looking for a Supercoach pod, he's good for a try most weeks. And Reynolds will kick to him.
Again, runs that really hard line on that right edge, and his defence is a bit better than what it was last year too.
Yeah.
Still not the best defender in the world, but he's definitely been working on it. So
good enough signs from the Titans. We've seen they'll match it with those middle teams. They'll beat the likes of your Dragons and Canberra, who we'll get to. But I think the best teams, and any two teams that we've seen do it here, and Brisbane are the one doing it better right now, are the ones that, as I said last year, analogy, drag them out to the deep water and see who can swim for the longest, and that's what Brisbane do. We've seen they do what Penrith was doing 2 years ago, where they'll blow that 20 points out in the last 10 minutes, but they earn the right to do it.
Yeah, that's right. They're not just throwing the ball around. Just give it to the fast blokes out the back and hope that they score.
Yeah,
they're making sure that they make a massive impact in the middle of the field first.
We still got to see how they handle back end season footy. We saw them gas out last year, but some people asking us earlier who we think the best teams are, and I for right now would say them and Penrith.
They're in your top four. Yeah, absolutely.
We'll talk about the others. We'll see how Sharks can put. Still want Cronulla to put together 80.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we'll get to the rest of them now, I suppose. We've given out the 3-2-1s, Daggy M's.
Oh, no, I had Walsh with the 3,
yes.
Payne Haas with 2, and then...
I'm not walking away without Mo getting a point.
All right, we'll give it to Mo.
But Fafita probably...
I had Fafita and Reynolds as well, but we'll give it to Mo.
Yeah, I would give him Mo too, but that's fine. I accept that. If they'd won, he would have been chaired aloft into this pub. Been awkward for him, not knowing it was going to happen. But anyway, 20-14.
Good luck getting him.
I don't think he would have come close.
I think if he's going to resist, we've got no chance of getting him.
Yeah, that's true. 20-14. As this week, we wanted car crash game, and we got this one.
This was fucking painful, man. This was like
at the
seriously.
38th minute mark, I started cheering for the nil or draw. Because I was like, at least it would be amusing. Because, my God, this was a fucking awful game of football. Anyway,
20 points to 14, 3 tries apiece, 3 out of 3 conversions for Canberra, 0 from 3 for the Dragons. 1 out of 1 penalty attempts for both teams, 30 out of 41 sets played, 26 out of 41 sets, 322 plus running metres for the Dragons, 2 line breaks to 3, 41 tackle busts from both teams. Fucking, I don't know where they came from. 7 offloads to 9, 4 forced dropouts by Canberra. 329 tackles played, 353. 1 ruck infringement to 2 inside the 10 against the Dragons. 4 penalties conceded to 3, 13 errors to 14. 2 sin bins for Canberra. Horsburgh with 40 tackles. Jack DeBellum with 54. Sebastian Chris with 185 running metres. Moga with 213. Tata Moga with 98 Supercoach points, Sloan with 85, and Sebastian Chris with 76.
I know it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, but ever notice how, like, the lack of a better term, lesser teams do dumb shit a lot of the time?
Yes.
It seemed reflected in this game. I was just looking at it, interest tackle bust for the record. Chris made 9, Tomoka
Chris
made
was very
8,
good, actually.
And Sloan made 8 for the Dragons, but this was an absolute bludger of a game.
This reminded me of when I was single, mate. And I go out to the pub with a couple of me mates, and you just sit there and look around and go, fucking no one's scoring tonight. Like, this is not going to happen. There's plenty of effort, just fucking mistakes everywhere. Yeah. And then occasionally some bloke just falls on a loose ball and something happens, so that's about it.
Yeah, that summed it up well. All right, we don't need to give any points and move on. This, where do I start? Like, there was a good 15-minute passage where Dragons got downfield. No, sorry, Canberra got downfield.
Yes.
Grub it into the end goal. There was a short dropout. Someone fucked it up. They came up the ball, dropped it 2 minutes upfield. They picked it up, grubbed it back in the end goal, and they did it again and again and again. It was just riveting stuff.
Like both teams did work hard. Like they had to work doubly hard because of their own brain snaps.
Canberra for 60 minutes don't leave the fucking post to post third of the field. They go up there and up there and up there. They finally get a ball to Tomoko. He fucking beats 4 blokes and scores.
100%.
Speaking of which, the first try, Moga just stood there and 4 blokes let him score. Which is, speaking of falling on a ball, he just, like, 4 blokes just went, oh, okay, well, fucking, there you go.
I don't want to stop him. You going to stop him? Nah, fuck
that. I'm trying of any fluidity in the attack. Ben Hunt.
White and Dead Set seemed to be on a sabotage mission.
Actually,
he Dead Set went out of his way to fucking lose this game for the Dragons.
I just remembered for pot plants, but anyway.
He was doing so many fucking dumb things in this game. I don't think I've seen him put so many bad
even if
efforts
2 minutes to go, you know what, let's let him back in. It'd be interesting. And I was fully expecting him to score off the kickoff and fucking
absolutely.
go to golden point.
So was I. There would have been. There's 4 or 5 blokes in this game that would have been more productive by missing the bus. They should have just fucking stayed at home because they did fuck all when they were out there in this game. Seriously, the Dragons as a whole probably worked harder, but they just had little to no impact in this game. They could not do anything apart from make errors at the worst possible time, which has been a trend for them for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Something they really need to get a hold of. It was Canberra again with grit and determination. Like they saved they probably saved 2 tries in the first half and another one in the second half, which, you know, off their own bat, with some really good scramble defence, which was a theme of the weekend, to be honest. it came down to a strip. That's another point that I don't really like. I don't like 3 players in the tackle and 2 letting go and then a strip happening.
Because when people once you go, oh, if you could change a rule, what would you change? And I always forget this, but you're right. I would get rid of that.
Yeah, one-on-one tackles.
It's the dumbest fucking rule in the game because if you're there holding a ball about to play it,
well, old mate's got his head. I'm in the right position. Let him go.
Yeah.
And then Hudson Young did really well to obviously get the ball and run 70 metres down the other end of the field. But I think as soon as the second player enters the tackle, the strip should be basically it's no longer an option once the second player enters the tackle.
Pure and simply a one-on-one from go to away.
But it wasn't the Raiders a game. Sloan and Moga were fantastic in the backs for the Dragons and really the only hope for their side. Molo was good off the bench. Michael Molo, not the other one who keeps taking heads off. Laurie and Bird were very good, I thought. And Sewer, chuck him in there as well. Jack DeBellin had his best game in a long time. And for some fucking reason, yesterday, I heard people talking about Jack DeBellin back in the Origin team.
Yeah, I know.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I think what happens is...
he had a game where he made 50 tackles, but
I think
Jesus
it comes
Christ.
from him making a quote. I think he can go, I'd really like to play Origin again.
He made 50 tackles in a game, well done.
Yeah.
But he got picked, 4 or 5 years ago, because he was destroying teams, running the ball, blowing blokes away, making breaks and offloads and doing all that kind of stuff. They've got plenty of blokes who can make 50 tackles. Jack DeBellin doesn't need to be mentioned anywhere near a State of Origin team at the moment. But it was his best game in a long time. Tomoko, Fogarty were very good. Horsburgh was really strong again. He's been fantastic the last 3 or 4 weeks and been a big part of why they're doing so well at the moment. Sebastian Chris's defensive positioning at fullback really stood out to me in this one.
Best game at fullback. It's like he
was in the right position just about every time a kick went through or there was a break to be made. He was the one that was in the right position to shut it down. I thought even in attack, his positioning was really good in this, and he had a great game. Young was the difference, obviously, with the strip and the try, and a lot of hard work in between. So,
what else do we say about this? Nothing.
No, Hudson Young 3 points, Chris 2, and then either Moga or Sloan for the 1. But
Chris 2, Sloan. Yeah, give it to Moga because Sloan still does some dumb shit. I think he still had 4 or 5 errors. He still. I don't know what to go to Sloan. I don't know. I feel like a Bellamy or a Bennett could get something out of him if he could cop it. But otherwise, I think it's just what you see is what you're going to get. And he may...
Forward pack.
We end up playing against Matt Duffy in Super League.
More than likely. I'd like to see him behind a forward pack that gets a roll on every now and then as well, which would be nice. But
is he the one the Tigers are chasing? No, Schuster's one of them.
Schuster and... Amon. Yeah. Who basically... It was one of those blokes who should have stayed at home and not got on the bus in this game because he was fucking horrendous in this game. But
anyway, Para weren't horrendous. They played all right. 30-4 at Combank, and they were all there in what should have been my same game multi, but I didn't put it on. Anyway, I had.
It's always the ones you leave out, isn't it? 5 tries to 1, 4 out of 5 conversions, and a missed conversion attempt by the Bulldogs. A missed 2-point field goal attempt by Parramatta and 1 out of 1 penalty attempts. 33 out of 47 sets, played 24 out of 35. 508 plus running metres for the Parramatta in this game. They absolutely dominated the middle of the field with 137 post-contact metres as well. 4 line breaks to 2, 30 tackle busts to 24, 12 offloads to 10. 6 forced dropouts by Mitchell Moses, I'm pretty sure, with every single one of them, and 1 from the Bulldogs. 0 40-20s, 293 tackles, played 342. 2 ruck infringements against Parramatta and 1 inside the 10 against the Bulldogs. 3 penalties conceded to 9, 13 errors to 11. Hopgood made 37 tackles, King made 48. Regan Campbell-Gillard with 197 running metres and Max King with 159. Penasini topped the Supercoach points with 98 and some really good footwork. Busted the line a few times. It was quite good. Madison with 89, who's come back with an absolute aplomb. He's been fantastic since he's come back. And Regan Campbell-Gillard with 83. I don't know how Max King ended up with 80. I thought he probably deserved a few more than that because he was close to one of the best players on the field.
Well, he was the only bloke. He was the man against the tide for a lot of this Max King. And on both sides of the ball. was real good.
He's been brilliant for him this year.
That first 20, 25 half hour was pretty good footy. It was tough footy. And Campbell Gillard was far and away the best bloke in that. He was absolutely outstanding and has been all year. Like
another one who just seems to love it. The harder it gets, the harder he works.
But it's absolute madness if he's not in the New South Wales team, which I'm sure he won't be because there we are. But he was fantastic. Paulo eased his way back in a bit more than him. But as you mentioned, it was Madison, RCG.
Yeah, about 15, 20 minutes in the game, RCG and that just started stomping through the middle of this pack.
Yeah. And he, but an RCG tends to make it into that 35-minute mark for Ezra. He does go long. Paulo usually comes off first. Was usually the first of that, and then they nudge and nurdle in between.
Some nice second phase play and some really fast, flat passing from Parramatta. I really like the way that when they do hit their stride, they play at the line. There's really fast movement, and Moses and Brown are both really good at hitting the line with options on either side and playing really nice, flat, fast football. So.
And they've got a back row that suits that now. Like Lane gets it. Lane's always sniffing around outside Brown.
Madison and Hopgood coming on for a few minutes. Yeah.
Look, I think we were probably. I feel like we were slightly overcritical of them early on. And they were in games there, but they did play like shit in a couple of them. And did play like shit against the Tigers. But this is probably their most complete performance. You probably have to temper it in that they were playing a Canterbury team that kept, more wheels kept falling off the cart. They're already down to the last few spokes and some more kept falling off. But they were but they were good. Penasini was someone I wanted to make a point of because he's growing into one of the better centres in the game. He's now he'd be in a.
He's got defensive issues, but ball
attacking wise, footwork wise, him and Tango, a lot of parallel. I think.
Very much.
That point of view,
just a bit bigger.
Yeah. But always good for a try, and it feels like when Power on top, Gutho's happy to take those games off sometimes where Power steamroll. His defence was still fantastic. And he's always tries hard, but he wasn't trying to touch the ball every second or third tackle there. So they found a nicer, I know being able to ease on the back of their forwards is easy, but a nicer setup here. I'd still be concerned against the real good teams against.
Parra should have been further in front at half time.
Oh yeah.
And the Dogs came out firing in the first 10 or 15 minutes of the second half, and Parra were flat. They didn't come out for 10 or 15 minutes when the Dogs actually ramped up the tempo. Dogs probably could have put on an extra try or two there just after the second half, which would have made the scores a little bit more flattering towards them. But Parramatta kicked back into gear in the last 25 minutes or so and just put it to bed. Yeah,
my point I was going to make is I'd still be concerned seeing your Russell and Dunster defence on an edge against a real good team. I think we know what Parra defence is like out wide at times, so that's my biggest concern with them. But I think they're be comfortable enough. Are there any positives to take out of this? TPG tried his best, actually.
He came back and did well. He was quite good.
He was determined to offload every chance he got, for better or worse. But he did try to take that fire to him and at least give him something.
They found Preston. Preston's an upside for him. He's a very good worker in the middle of the field. Max King works his ass off every single week and he's another tick for this team. But, their organisation in attack and a couple of... plotters in the outside backs.
And I know they're at the bottom of the barrel. I know they're missing quite a few and had to push Alamotte out. Ockenbaugh's, not.
They need a fullback. Avarillo probably not quite first grade standard, to be honest. He has his good games, but there'd be a better option out there somewhere, I would imagine.
I know they're not the only ones, but
Adokar and Karaz both missing.
That's true.
Killed them.
And takes a lot of meterage out the back there. Yeah. Where's Matt Burton at? Would be the last thing I'd probably ask you.
He seems to me to be trying to play a bit too much in a dinner set, really. His best attribute is his running game, and it seems to have dissipated the last couple of weeks.
Imagine him being airdropped back into the Penrith team.
Yeah.
What would he be doing there?
Or even at centre here with a couple of halves dropped into this side. His best option is his running game. I haven't seen a lot of his spiral bombs either this year.
There was a few.
There's a couple.
They seem to have the spiral bomb cam set up for him. And Vossi blows his load every time it goes up, so you notice.
But considering he used to do it every second set last year, he's not kicking it as much, and he doesn't have the touch for me to be a top shelf half. his passing game's passable, but it's not. It doesn't have that finesse.
No.
Same with his short kicking game. His short kicking game is very touch and go.
I think, and obviously it's
doesn't help when he doesn't have a halfback there.
They were well, and they finished the game last 20 minutes. Marnie playing first receiver and Flanagan at 9. That doesn't bode well for where Flanagan's prospects lie. No. I haven't actually looked at the board.
They tried Reynolds in there as well, which wasn't really effective at all.
Already. Yeah. I am quite interested to see how quickly they pull the trigger on Olapau or Ola Harpau. I imagine at round 10 is probably looming, and that's probably where. So
yeah, well, I think he's still in that. Is he outside the 30? He's in the development squad, 10? So 10 or 12. Yeah, I think it might be 10 this year.
They do have. I don't know if he's in the 30. They do have the Lebanese halfback up their sleeve. They haven't cracked out yet. Whose name just escapes me.
Yeah.
Khalid. Khalid, got that right. And he wouldn't be the worst, at least for 2 weeks to try. But yeah, I don't know. I think things for this year are going to get worse before they get better for the Dogs. So
yeah, it's not looking good. Definitely not.
It was back to what I was going to say, Burton, is I think they were hoping that if Kikau was there, they could have at least created that one edge of the field where there was a combination. Yeah, all right, what are we doing here? 3 points RCG.
Yep.
2 points.
Penasini.
Very good. Yeah, give it to Penasini. And what do you reckon, Brown or Madison?
Max King or Moses. Just with his kicking game, getting the repeat sets, but...
I'll give it to Moses. Yeah, fair enough. I think he's having almost his best year to date at this stage of the season, Moses. Yep. What do we got left? We've got to do some pot planning. I'm going to give it to Jerome Luai just because I can. I don't think he added very much at all, but he wasn't on his own. But I'll save the other one for a slap.
Joe Stimson, 5 runs for 60 metres in 60 minutes of football. Like, what the fuck are you doing? One every 10 minutes. Like, having a hit up every 10 minutes.
Especially in that company. Like, if you're ever going to go, fuck, these blokes are on here, I'm getting involved.
Did make 27 tackles, but missed 7 as well. So, was definitely a glaring highlight, low light in this Titans team that actually went all right. So,
a weird one because it's just because of the timing of it. And maybe why, but I'm going to slap Jack Whiten. I don't know what any of his decision makings were in that game. And when you've just gone to market trying to get $1 million, it wasn't the best shop window performance, I thought. So, and even like I said, the last play to let them back in the game, I'm not quite sure what he was thinking there either. But he'll still get $1 million because there's no one else that can play anywhere resembling 6 or 7 in this comp apparently. What do you think for a slap? If you ask the market.
Good commentary. I was going to go with the other Titan that I mentioned earlier in Isaac Liu, but thinking about it a little bit more, I'm probably going to go with Amon from the Dragons at 5'8". He offered very little in that game, and I think he threw one nice pass that may have led to points down the track. But considering how good he was before all these off-field issues and that, the back end of last year, he was very, very good. He was always threatening, running the ball, causing issues.
Their only hope in some of those games.
Yeah, he's. We know he can be better, so friendly slap to hopefully get him.
Was he allowed to? Most of our slaps are quite friendly, I think. not too often we're not friendly slapping. Was he allowed to train pre-season?
No, I don't think so.
Was he just
a no-fault stand down?
He was, like persona non grata. Just don't be here. So maybe that's a slight excuse. Another one who I would, you throw him into a Melbourne system, I'm sure he'd be as good as anyone else. All right, salute. I'm going to go with the front rowers this week. I thought there were some outstanding performances across the board. Of course, Mr. Fodawaker, RCG was outstanding. Jesse Bromwich, throw in Jake Turbo, throw in Paseka and Sipley. I thought, and there's more. There's guys I've forgotten. Fanor Blake. Yeah. I think some of these bash games just came back to the pillars and they were fantastic, and I loved it. What about you?
I went with DCE. I just thought he did play in that, that dinner suit, but not so much actually. He was running the ball quite a bit as well. He was doing everything he could to get his team over the line. It came through, obviously, the kick for Turbo, and it's just his kicking game. The way he can dictate a game, where it's just continually turning teams around and pinning them in their corner, just about every time he gets the opportunity to do it, is just brilliant. And to be able to just turn a game with your kicking game realistically.
He's had to play defensive kicker for years now, a couple of years now, and he's outstanding at it. Like how often have we raved about him even just keeping him in the game? Ironic, like, what would he get if he went to over market tomorrow? I don't know how long he's got his contract, but he'd surely at 1.3, 1.4. Someone would pay him that.
You'd be getting the same as your
Moses.
top blokes. Yeah. Moses, Nico,
he's
you'd probably get more.
Queensland captain,
Getting
I suppose.
1.3 maybe.
So I'm stating
1.2, 1.3.
Yeah, but geez, it almost feels like he's an underrated player in a lot of quarters.
Yeah, absolutely, and he cops a lot of hate too.
Like,
there's so many
Manly
people that
blokes here hate him.
Absolutely hate him.
I'll take him.
And I know there are occasionally, maybe once every 5 or 6 games, where he's just nowhere to be seen, but that happens in every team.
Yeah. They don't win any games without him.
Pretty much. No.
So, anyway, that's it. Check out rugbyleaguemerch.com.au. Check out our socials. Leave us some feedback. Tell us where we're right and wrong and what you think, or if you've got any questions. And we'll be back shortly to look at all things round 8, which, as we've alluded to, looks like quite the round to untangle here. So, looking forward to that. Take care, guys, and we'll talk soon.